Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It is 2 p.m. and I call this meeting of the Board of Education to order. I'll call the roll, please.
Ms. Clementi?
I am here. Good afternoon.
Mr. Farrell?
Here.
Judge Mays?
Here.
Mr. Voss?
Here.
Dr. Wright?
Here.
Superintendent Macaluso, do you have any corrections or modifications to the agenda?
Thank you, President Voss. At this time, there are no corrections or modifications to the agenda.
Then I'll move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
I'll call the vote, please.
Ms. Clementi?
Aye.
Mr. Farrell?
Aye.
Judge Mays?
Aye.
Mr. Voss?
Aye.
Dr. Wright?
Aye.
And with that, we'll move into our work session, starting with the new elementary and K-8 schools design process and plan update.
President Voss and Superintendent Macaluso, may I have just a minute to make a suggestion? Or
Sure.
As you all know, I believe I had an op-ed that was printed in the Pueblo Chieftain on Sunday relative to disruption of school board meetings, and I don't want to challenge Superintendent Macaluso that this meeting will be rather short, but I really would like to know whether or not the board would at this time, because I would suggest that I would like to hear from the rest of my colleagues on the board how they feel about the future of meetings going forward. So I would like to recommend, if everyone's in agreement, that we go through with the business calendar as we have it right now, and at the end of the meeting that we have a discussion about that particular issue. So I guess I just need to know whether or not the rest of the board members feel that it's something that should be discussed, and whether it should be discussed today.
I guess I'd welcome some input from Mr. Bump and Superintendent Macaluso if that's something we should have a discussion about today during the meeting.
I think a discussion is always appropriate in terms of the format that we're using to determine the format of our meetings. And I would defer to Mr. Bump if you have anything to add.
My suggestion is that we discuss these in executive session. I have listed as a potential topic a legal issue to discuss the board's authority with respect to public health orders, et cetera. So that might be an appropriate place to ask me your questions, and that would maybe give guidance as far as going forward.
That's fine with me. I guess, and I thought we'd probably end up doing that. But I also think it's very important that this community know how the board feels about these things. And therefore, I think a robust discussion among the board members is really necessary. If that public discussion needs to take place at the next meeting, then I would ask that it be placed on the agenda for that time.
Ms. Clementi, did you have something to add?
Yes, thank you. I would agree with the judge and would like to see it placed on the coming meeting. I do believe that we also need to be very clear about our meetings, that they are meetings of this board. They are not open public meetings. They are meetings of this board that we hold in public, and this board can create any, almost any guidelines or parameters for our meetings as we would like. And I think it's important that that be part of the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Mr. Farrell, Dr. Wright, do you have anything to add?
I do not at this time. Thank you.
I would, and I think maybe what I'm hearing now is we can get some legal guidance and as far as our authority on some things in executive session, and then have this on a future agenda, which I think would be appropriate.
Sure. All right. I'm okay with approaching it that way as well. Does that sound good, Judge?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your guidance.
So I have noted that as a future agenda item for the next board meeting. And so at this time, I'd like to introduce Jack Mousseau from MOA Architecture, and he's going to present to us the plans on the new elementary builds and the K-8.
Thank you, Superintendent Macaluso. I will hopefully present now. And please let me know if you can see the full-size view of the image.
It looks fine, Jack.
Terrific. So thank you for letting me share a bit of your meeting here today. I'm here to give you an update on the design and soon-to-be construction of the two K-8 schools, Sunset Park and Franklin, and the new K-8 Expeditionary School. What I'm going to run through, hopefully fairly briefly, about a half an hour, a little bit of a discussion on the elementary school project parameters and features, site plans, floor plan, exterior building designs, and interior building designs. And then we'll go through the same on the K-8 school. First of all, I just want to highlight the success of the 2019 district bond. There are 5 schools coming out of it, and the locations that you can see on this map: Centennial, Franklin, the new K-8 Expeditionary School, the East High School, and Sunset Park. Really terrific opportunity for kids and families here in Pueblo to experience some really exciting new facilities. Focusing in on Sunset Park and Franklin, just briefly, some parameters of these two projects. They are a shared funding projects through both District 60's bond and Colorado Department of Education's BEST grant funding. These two schools do follow the CDE BEST grant agreement, guidelines, protocols, etc. And as you recall, both of these schools are prototypes, meaning that they are very, very similar to each other. There are some site differences that we'll discuss and share with you, but for all intents and purposes, these schools are identical to each other. Each school is designed at 55,603 square feet. Both of these schools are larger than their predecessors. The existing Sunset's just under 50,000. The existing Franklin's just over 51,000. So we're getting a bit more space, a bit more capacity in these two buildings. 451 students expected in each school. These schools are what are called 3-round elementary schools, meaning there are 3 classrooms per grade level in K through 5. Some of the features of these projects, certainly security has been high on our mind in the design. So both the layout and the technology within the building heightens the ability to create a safe and really pleasant environment for the students and staff. Both buildings incorporate a high performance design approach. Energy efficiency is high on our mind. Both buildings feature what's called a VRF, variable refrigerant flow mechanical system. That results in energy savings. It results in outside fresh air to all of our classroom spaces. Enhanced mechanical filtration, which is very important given the pandemic we are still under. And then low VOC materials throughout, so we don't have off-gassing of nasty particles into the air. We do feature daylighting throughout the building. We have clear stories, as you'll see in our learning pods, at our entry, in our dining commons, and in our discovery center, which is our media center library space. LED lighting throughout, enhanced acoustical performance and design. And then on the educational side, we've got a great activity commons I'll share with you for each grade level as a breakout. space for education. We're featuring garage doors between the classroom spaces and the activity commons. We're hoping our final bids can support those. Individual grade level pods, we are pairing up several grade levels you'll see on the floor plans. And then the building design includes art, music, our Discovery Commons and projects area. That's again our media center, small group learning spaces, special education, a gym, stage, and dining commons. Let's first look at our site plans, and I'm sure you're all somewhat familiar with the existing sites of both these schools. They obviously are going in the same approximate location as the existing buildings, but we have to leave those existing buildings operational and functional while we're building the new schools. There will be some limited demolition and abatement of asbestos in the 2 existing schools, actually starting next month. That's about a 4 classroom demolition on each school that allows the site to be a little more flexible for the placement of the new schools while they're under construction. You can see there's about half of the site area available on both of these existing properties for the new schools. And here you see side by side the Sunset Park and Franklin sites. When I talk about prototype, you can see the buildings are actually flipped from one another. Some call it a mirror, some call it a flip, but they're just opposite. The floor plan is the same, the layout is the same, they're just flipped a little bit. That actually helps identify each school and making each one a bit unique, along with the variation in materials and color selections. You can see, focusing in here on Sunset Park, the building in the middle, that does avoid the existing school with the exception of that small demolition, partial demolition we're going to commence with next month. Our drop-off curb and parking coming off of University Circle. The main entry sits right here on the south side of the building, so we get great daylight, great sun exposure to the entry of the school. And then our building kind of marches around with classroom pods. We've got the kindergarten pod right in here with a playground directly outside for that. 1st and 2nd grade, 3rd and 4th grade up here, and 5th grade here. Our dining commons and gymnasium are on this side. And coming out of the gymnasium and out of an exit from the school here, we've got our primary and secondary playgrounds and hardcourt play surface, and then outdoor play areas. And before I get too far, I just want to reach out to you, Superintendent Macaluso, and just make sure this is all coming across fine.
Yes, we're able to see the images just fine, Jack.
Great, thank you. There is a fire lane that wraps around the north side of Sunset Park that is just a fire lane for safety and access from fire vehicles. That is not a parent drop-off or a bus drop-off lane. On Franklin, you can see really the exact same features, but flipped again. Laid out very similarly, though. The main entry and drop-off is off of Horseshoe Drive. The entry, again, has that great southern exposure, so we get a lot of great daylight coming into the front of the school. Our classroom pods in the building are arranged exactly the same, again, just flipped. So kindergarten is right here. The nice thing about kindergarten is it's on both schools, it's right off of that drop-off loop. So very easy access for parents to bring kiddos in and out of the school, especially those young kiddos in kindergarten. Again, our 1st and 2nd grade, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Our play fields, playgrounds, and hard surface play court over on this side, again, adjacent to the gym and off of that exterior access. We do have great landscaping around the building to help buffer from our neighbors and provide them a pleasant experience as they look from their yards towards the new school. We'll now kind of dive into the floor plans a little bit and share a little bit about the interior planning. We're going to focus primarily on Sunset Park because Franklin is identical. I will share an overall plan of Franklin here in just a minute as well. But just kind of overall organization of the building, and then we'll kind of zoom into some areas. Again, the main entry is off the south, right in here. Administration is adjacent to it, along with reception. As you come into the building, you're greeted with the dining commons and open commons area. That has a nice glass wall on the north side of it, so you can see actually all the way through the building to the landscape to the north. On the left side, as you come in, are some of our shared spaces. So we've got our gymnasium starting on the very left-hand side, and an exterior exit that accesses those play fields and playgrounds. We have a stage onto the gym, so performances can happen in that space. We can set up an audience in the gym. Our music is right behind our stage area, so actually that stage and music can become one larger space, be more flexible for performances, for musical activities that would take place within that program. Behind that, in these gray areas, are building support functions. So we've got restrooms, kitchen, electrical and mechanical rooms, etc. Going to the right-hand side of the common, so if you entered the building and went to the right, you enter all of our academic areas. So directly to the right and on the south side of the corridor is our special education suite. We have 2 special ed classrooms and then an exterior access. So special ed buses at that drop-off loop, those kiddos can come directly into the SPED suite or leave the SPED suite and go out to those buses very, very easily. Directly opposite the SPED suite is our grade 5 learning studio and learning suites. They again have an activity commons. That's a great breakout space. So if teachers and students need a little more space or want to collaborate between classrooms, they have the ability to do that. We'll zoom in a little bit to that in just a moment. Art is a buffer between our 5th grade and our 3rd and 4th. So we've got our 3rd and 4th grade studio here, and then 1st and 2nd down on the south side, and opposite them, our kindergarten suite. Kind of a center organizing element within the school is our Discovery, Media, and Project Center. So zooming in a bit on that main entry, admin, and kind of gym area, you can see we've got a variety of office spaces within admin for principal all the way down to our staff lounge. We've got our dining commons up in here. I believe the schools are designed to accommodate lunch periods in 3 different serving periods. And that will handle the student population. Our serving window here, students can also access the exterior. There'll be some seating out here as well. So on nice days, hopefully the students are acting well, they can go outside and enjoy lunch out there. The gym, performance platform and music right in here as I described a moment ago. And then our service areas with our service drive and access coming up here. And then reaching over to our academic side, again, if you came into the building and turned right, our SPED studio, and you can see that access to the exterior. Our 5th grade studio, we do have a flex and resource classroom within that 5th grade area. That is an opportunity for a variety of programs to occur. It's also a flex space. If you have a bubble year with a larger student population in a particular grade level, you can use that. It's also a great expansion opportunity for the commons. Should you have a science fair or activities like that, you could also incorporate that space to help accommodate those activities. Again, our art in the middle, grades 3, 4, our project Discovery Media Center, that organizing element in the middle. There are not walls around it. There will be flexible furniture, etc. And I'll share what some of those images look like here in a moment. And then again, on the south side of the school, we've got our kindergarten here on the left, 3 classrooms for them. Again, they have an activity commons and direct access to the courtyard and the parent drop off and pickup curb, and then 1st and 2nd grade sitting here. This is Franklin. I'm sure you recognize it from the sunset plans. Again, it's identical. It is just flipped or mirrored, but all the same features, the same square footage, same size, etc. Next, I'm going to take you through kind of a fly around of Sunset Park. So this starts to share what the exterior of the building looks like. We're kind of circling around the building. That's first and second grade. And now you're coming up to the third and fourth grade. You can see the outdoor learning areas between the grade level pods. The sloped roof in the middle now is our dining commons, and going all the way through to our main entry. So here we're coming back around to the front of the school, the main entry. And you can see as we start to walk up towards the main entry, that's really an identifiable feature of the building. It's a story and a half high. We get great daylight coming into the admin and dining commons area through that heightened roof within that area. But we did bring a canopy down low with our younger age learners here. We wanted to have a sense of scale that they're comfortable with at that entry as well. And here we're walking up to the media center on the left, and on the right is the kindergarten pod with its raised roof and clear story. So here we're going to kind of circle around and come over to one of our outdoor learning areas. So you can see all of our classroom pods have access to these outdoor environments. So a group of students with their teacher can come out here. If it's a nice day, do a learning unit out here, etc. This is, I'm going to just share a couple of still images quickly that are a little rendered a little to a little bit higher resolution. So this is the main entry of Sunset Park. You can see on the underside of these canopies is kind of a wood appearing material. It's actually metal, but it has a nice patina of wood to it on the metal. Nice, warms up the building nicely. Another view of the entry of Sunset Park, looking all the way down to that media center, Discovery Center space. Kind of zooming into that. From the Discovery Center, Media Center, you can come outside. There's a project area outside for students there as well. And then this is looking at our kindergarten grade level pod. So parents can come actually pretty close with vehicles, drop students off, pick students up, etc. And then this is one of those outdoor learning environments between our grade levels. Franklin School of Innovation is, again, very similar. This fly around will be a little bit shorter because you've seen many of these features. But again, the main entry and that raised roof element runs all the way through the building, incorporating the dining commons as well. You can see the gym there on the left is that higher mass. And then coming around here to our grade level pods. And again, they have the raised clear stories, bringing daylight into those activity commons spaces. So as students break out and use those spaces, they're brightly lit. There's a lot of activity in those spaces, great furniture, etc. Coming around back to our main entry, kind of coming in close to it. Again, you can see a similar feature at the main entry. Where we've got that raised roof element and then a lower roof canopy, and then coming around to its entry. These are some of the higher resolution images on Franklin. Again, the main entry, and then the background is the media center, and on the left-hand side is the kindergarten pod. There will be a variation between the two schools in terms of the metal colors, the metal panel colors, and the masonry colors will be different from one school to the next. So let's take a walk inside these two schools. So this is a video of an experience walking directly into the school. So you're coming through a first set of doors, or actually that was a second set of doors, and now you're into the administration suite, reception desk here. You can see some great daylight coming down from above. And then we're going to walk through actually a third set of doors. That's part of our security protocols. This is the dining commons. You can see the windows on the opposite end, so you get great daylight and views out. Now we're walking towards the part of the building that has the gymnasium, music, and performance stage. So we're walking down this access area to the gymnasium. We're planning on some nice graphics that help identify each school, make each one unique as well as the interior finishes and colors are unique to each school. You can see some great daylighting coming into our gymnasium. So it'll be bright, sunny, some great natural daylight. You can see our performance stage there. That does open all the way back up to music. And then going over to the academic side of the school. So now we're back in our dining commons, and we're going to take a swing around it. You can see some really unique kind of lighting features and scaling elements within that space. And then the colorful elements on the wall are acoustical panels to help our sound control. Now we're walking towards our academic suites. Each suite has a pair of doors that provide a secure way of locking down our academic areas. Now we're in our activity commons, and the large glass elements you see are garage doors, and those open up to our classrooms. So you can open those garage doors up. They are opaque glass, so you can't see through them, but we get good daylight transfer. Now we're walking along our media center on the right-hand side. We just passed our art classroom. That's an entry, the blue, to one of our academic wings or academic pods. We're going to go down to the location of our first and second grade. We're going to swing around here and look at our media center, our discovery center a little bit more. Lots of flexibility in this space for a traditional media center, as well as project-based learning activities can occur in there. And these are some still images that just allow you to not get quite so dizzy running through the school, because we went through pretty quickly. This is our reception area with the clear story above. We do have kind of a lattice work ceiling feature that hangs down below that just to filter the light a little bit and give it a sense of scale. Our Discovery and Media Center here. The two kind of opaque areas on the left-hand side are garage doors into our art studio. So those can open up again and partake in some of this space, share resources, etc. Another view into our Media Discovery Center. And this is one of our activity commons. So the opaque areas are the garage doors into the classrooms. And you can see kind of the raised area in the middle. That's where our clear story glazing comes, so we get daylight down in from above. Another view, you can see one of the garage doors, or a pair of the garage doors open here. A typical classroom here. I think our ceiling heights within the building are about 9 feet 6 inches. So nice tall volumes, great spaces. With that, I'm going to switch over and share with you a bit about the new K-8 Expeditionary School. We're really excited with this one. The K-8 Expeditionary School is funded entirely through the district's bond. There is not shared BEST funding on this building. We were able to utilize many of the design elements from the elementary schools in the design of the K-8. So there were certainly savings, both in terms of time and design dollars, and being able to utilize all three schools for many of the design features. There is an existing gymnasium on site from the Heroes days. That existing gym will remain and be an auxiliary gym for the school. This building will be about 73,800 square feet, so a bit bigger, obviously, than our elementary schools. Grades K through 8, obviously, and 675 students is our targeted capacity. Many of the same features are in existence in this building. The same security features, a similar mechanical system with the VRF system, so we're still getting fresh air to our classrooms, fresh outside air, enhanced filtration, low VOCs, great clear story lighting in many of our spaces here. Again, LED lighting, enhanced acoustical performance, etc. Some of the building features in terms of spaces within the buildings, we do have a CTE lab, career and technical education lab for our older students, a projects lab that's very flexible for all grade levels, science classrooms for our upper grade levels, art, music, discovery commons, and projects area that again is our media center space more traditionally, small group breakout spaces, special education, gym, that auxiliary gym as well, and then similar to the elementary schools, a stage and a dining commons. So we're going to share the site plan with you. You may recognize the old Heroes site here with the building as it was before it was demolished. That just as a reminder, for since that building may not be top of mind, or that site and its location, since Heroes was taken offline a few years ago. You can see where it is within the Pueblo community. And then kind of zooming into the building site itself, we are coming off of the west side, a drop-off curb here with parking, our south-facing entry and entry courtyard. The building footprint, I'm sure you recognize, very similar to our elementary schools, but this is a two-story school. So we do have grade levels on that second story that we don't have on our K through 5 schools. We do have a fire lane wrapping around the school here that will also serve as a parent drop-off loop as well. We have bus drop-off and other parent drop-off opportunities both here and at the front of the school. You can see our outdoor learning classroom opportunities are very similar to our elementary schools. Here you see the existing auxiliary gym. We did place it in very close proximity to the gym that is part of the new school. So it's a very short walk from one to the other should staff and students choose to use that building as well. And then our playgrounds are divided up between kindergarten, grades 1-3, grades 3-5, and then our older kids tend to use the hard asphalt court areas, track and field. We are retaining the existing track and field as a component of this site. So that's great as well, and results in some cost savings by using this site. Floor plan wise, you can see here our ground level plan. Very, again, similar to our K5 schools. Our main entry here to the south, our admin area here. There are a few additional offices because of the K8 program. Our dining commons is organized very similarly, a little larger because of our larger student population in here. Our gym is a bit bigger in this building than our elementary schools. So we do have more of a full-size gymnasium here, stage and performance platform, and music behind it. So you can see much of the same organization to the building as our elementary buildings. Where it does differ a little bit, if you recall, in the elementary buildings, we had the SPED, special education suite, right in here. On this building, we've moved it up into this area and separated a bit more from our main entry. So our art classroom is down here adjacent to our Discovery Center, so they can start to share some resources in the middle here. And special ed is in the same pod then, and same suite area as our kindergarten classroom. And then we've got grades 1 and 2 here, grades 7 and 8 here. So grades 1 and 2 have actually grades 3 and 4 above them, and grades 7 and 8 have grades 4 and 5 above them. That gives a good kind of vertical matriculation of students in the building. In the center, similar to our elementary school, we have our Discovery and Media Center. There is a learning stair, a very large, wide stair here that is used for access between floors, but also as a lecture space, a learning space, a social gathering space, etc. within the school. And then here you see the second level. So grades 3 and 4 in this area, grades 5 and 6 in this area. You can see we've got a science classroom with the grade 5-6 pod. And then right in the middle here is that project activity studio that all grade levels can use. And I'm going to run downstairs just a minute. I did forget to mention with our grades 7 and 8, we do have a science lab here. It's a bit larger than the one upstairs, just so they can accommodate a bit more of a robust science program, maybe more project-based space within it. And then we have that CTE studio right here. It has a great garage door to be able to access an outdoor project area that is shared between CTE and the Discovery Media Center. So we've got, in that expeditionary program, we wanted to have a lot of opportunity for both traditional classroom space, but these featured spaces like CTE and science, and then the ability to utilize outdoor learning environments and outdoor experimental areas for those programs as well. The new K-8, again, very similar to some of the features of the elementary, but you can see the two-story portion of the building in the background. The much larger gymnasium and the auxiliary gym just to the right of it. Coming around to our dining commons, you can see that raised roof that goes all the way to the main entry. Our two-story stacked areas with our grade level pods above them. And then coming down and dropping, I think we're going to drop down to our main entry here in a minute. Yep. So walking up to the school, you can see it has much the same character as our elementary buildings. Again, a different color variation in our metals and in our masonries to make this building stand out on its own and be a bit unique. Sorry about the tree. And then looking back towards the main entry, the two-story media center commons is a feature of the building there as well with that large glass window. So here you can see some higher resolution images of the K-8 as well. A nice flock of birds on the right. I don't know why there's so many birds in Pueblo. A view as if you had just parked and we're going to walk up to the building. Some of our outdoor learning environment areas. And then just quickly, the interiors have not been developed as far. The design of this school is about 2 months behind the elementary schools. But I'll share some black and white images here. This is that learning stair within the Discovery Center, Media Center space. So that will be used both as an exit stair, but also as that lecture space, social space, classroom gathering space within the Media Center. The gymnasium here on the back, in the background, you can see the stage performance area within the gymnasium. This is our excuse me, our CTE classroom. So on the left-hand side, that transparent rectangle is the garage door out to that outdoor CTE plaza where they can do projects outside and transition from inside to outside very easily. You can see there's great infrastructure in this room for overhead power and other components that will help assist and provide tools for projects that will be occurring in here. And a part of this classroom has a single story height and a part of it actually has a double story height. You can see the small child and the window up high. That would be looking down from one of our corridors on the second level. You can look down into this space as well. And here you have another view of it. So just to wrap up, a little bit about next steps and where we are. We're scheduled to complete the design of the elementary school buildings in December of this year, so coming up very quickly, and then completing the K-8 schools design in February of next year. So again, it's about 2 months behind. We're starting partial demolition and abatement of the 2 elementary schools, the existing schools, next month. That'll continue through January of next year. And again, that's about 4 classrooms on each building that will be taken down, as well as the asbestos abatement for those. And then the remainder of those schools will stay in place until the new schools are completed. And then they will be, the complete demolition will occur. So we're going to start construction of the 2 elementary schools in March of next year. The gap is the permit time period for the state to review the drawings, comment on them, and ultimately to provide building permits. We're going to start the construction of the K-8s in May of next year. We do look to schedule the completion of all schools, including the 2 high schools, for the fall school year in year 2023. So you're going to have a very busy summer in 2023, preparing all 5 schools, and a very exciting fall when you open 5 brand new schools in Pueblo. So that is what I have to share. If you have some questions, I'd be happy to try to address them. And I'll turn it back to you, Superintendent Macaluso.
Thank you, Jack. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I have a couple of questions.
Sorry, go ahead, Judge.
Sure. Jack, thank you very much. What an exciting presentation, and it's just going to be so fabulous for our kids in Pueblo to be able to enjoy this educational experience of a lifetime. Thank you so much for your creativity and all that you've done. I have a couple questions, though, Jack, is with regard to the auxiliary gym at the Expeditionary School, are there any modifications or anything being done to that at all?
Yes, Judge. We are planning a few things, and depending on the costs associated with them, we'll make a determination, or the district will make a determination on whether to implement them. We are looking at adding restrooms into the existing auxiliary gym. As you may know, there are no restrooms in that building currently. So we are looking at the ability to provide restrooms into that building. That's primarily the element that we're looking at within that building. We are potentially going to repaint the building. We're going to relocate some utilities around that building a little bit, just so they aren't in the way of future construction. Those sorts of things. But the main element we would look to do, hopefully, is to add some restrooms in that building.
With regard to the SPED design, I saw the term color turnable lights.
Yes.
Could you explain what that is, please?
Sure. It gives the staff in those classrooms the ability to adjust light, color, and temperature. There are, with students that have some special needs, light color can be a trigger for actions or temperaments, and having the ability to tune the light color. It's basically going from a soft color to a warmer color, those sorts of things. It just gives the staff the ability to tune the lighting to help the students cope with the day.
Jack, and I'm certainly not an expert in this area, and I certainly don't want to offend anybody, but for a situation with regard to the SPED pods, is there area where a student may be, if a student needs special attention, can be removed to a special other place outside of the regular classrooms?
Yeah, I do believe, Judge Mays, we do have what we call a sensory room. I'm not sure if that's the label we used on these plans, but it's a small room that if you do have a student that needs to calm down, needs some, I don't want to use the term alone time, but more private time with a staff member or something, there is a space that allows the staff to utilize.
Okay. The with regard to CTE, I'm really excited about that aspect of this particular school. is it, and I have a hard time mowing the lawn. Matter of fact, I don't even anymore. But in any event, when I think of CTE, I think of some of the traditional stuff, auto mechanics, welding, that sort of thing. Are these particular? Is this particular facility going to be? Is it going to be such that we're going to have access to all that? That if we want to do special projects like that, that we're wired for it and the whole bit. I know you mentioned that a lot about the wiring and those sorts of things. And I guess I'm looking at the technical side of these things, and I really like this idea about the garage doors, not just in the CTE part of it, but the entire school, because I think it just opens up the space a lot more and gives you a lot more flexibility in what you can do. But can you give us a little bit of an idea of what all?
Sure, I'll talk about a couple things. In the CTE lab, when we look at CTE labs, they're oftentimes defined as either a clean lab or a dirty lab. And dirty labs tend to have more dirty activities in them. A wood shop, for instance, or an auto mechanic shop. I think what we've designed here is more of a clean CTE lab. So activities like robotics can happen in there. We don't have a dust collection system like you would in a traditional wood shop. But many of the CTE activities that occur in schools today, especially in K-8 environments, are clean lab based. So we have water, we have power, we have data, we have tools. So things like CNC machines could go in there, those types of components. It'll be a great space. It'll have a lot of activity and action. We've been working with the school district and continue to work with the school district to understand exactly what types of activities may occur in there, so we can be sure to provide the infrastructure and the capacity for power, data, et cetera, to be able to accommodate those activities. I agree with you in terms of the garage doors. I will say, and just to be transparent, some of our garage doors, the ones in the grade level classrooms, we hope to be able to include within the budget. I believe they are in the base building, but they are an alternate should costs be higher than anticipated. It is a very challenging budgetary time right now, as you probably read in the newspaper every day. So we are working very hard with the school district to identify ways to meet the desires and needs of the school district and the students within these buildings. And we hope to be able to achieve all of that when final pricing of these projects is in.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate that, and appreciate all the work that you and Houston and all the other folks that are involved in this thing from day one on this. It's been a fabulous project and just continues to really get me excited about all the work that Charlotte's going to have to do in 2020. Thank you.
Charlotte's going to have a busy summer, but an awfully exciting one.
Right. Thank you.
Dr. Wright.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. Wright.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I saw a lot of good things, obviously, and I think Judge mentioned some of the things. And I love the grade level pods that you have, that outdoor environment. I love that, to give that flexibility. I love the door security protocols that are in place for us, as well as the flexibility in the media center. There are a couple of things that I had questions about. I saw a kitchen in the SPED area in the elementary school, and I thought it was quite interesting. Talk about that, please.
Sure. Our SPED students, depending on their capabilities and such, sometimes staff will choose to provide snacks and things like that for those students. We want to be able to provide nourishment without having to go to the cafeteria all the time for these students. It also provides an opportunity for life skills. So these students, part of their education is learning to cope and deal with daily life. So those kitchen areas are important in helping them, learn the tools of daily life as well.
I thought it was very good. I saw it in elementary. Is that also in the K-8 school as well?
Yes, it is as well. Yeah.
Okay. You did touch on this a little bit. Can you explain a little bit more about how we're going to be operational while we're also doing the
Sure.
business and
Yeah. It seems like a daunting task, doesn't it, to have two operational schools while you're building a school on each of those sites. We work very, very closely with your general contractors. Obviously, they're general contractors for the elementary schools that have been working with us for some time. So ensuring that we're designing the schools in a way that they can build them safely, that they can separate their construction activities from students and staff while school is ongoing has been, part of the design process since they came on board. So we discuss it a lot. We discuss it with the principals of each of these elementary schools to make sure that they're comfortable with the construction activities that will be occurring. We've got protocols in place that whenever changes to the construction sequencing occur, that they are aware well ahead of time. Opposite protocols will be in place that if there are activities at the schools um, that warrant maybe stopping construction for a day or so, or something happening on the weekend, that the contractor is aware of it and can respond safely to make sure they're safe environments. There'll be complete separation of the construction areas on these sites from the active operations of the school. So the contractors take that very, very, very seriously. Obviously, any occurrence would be a tragedy, even if it's a small one. So it's top of mind continually for us in the design phase, but especially in the construction phase.
I really appreciate that. So I have a couple of questions about the K-8.
Uh-huh.
I think Judge talked a little bit about the gym. So the auxiliary gym, what would be the purpose of both gyms?
Yeah, so with a K-8 environment with multiple grade levels occurring here, it gives the opportunity for two different grade levels to be using gymnasium space. Gives the opportunity for physical fitness activities in the auxiliary gym while you're maybe setting up for a performance in the main gym. It's really a benefit of that auxiliary gym having been on the site. Had it been demolished when Heroes was demolished, we would not have been able to accommodate an auxiliary gym within the construction dollars available for this new building. So it provides some additional flexibility. It can also be a community asset for after hours use if you want to allow community members to utilize the auxiliary gym without having access to your brand new building. You can do that as well. So it's probably more about flexibility than anything else. It just enhances the ability to do different things.
And I really, really appreciate your forethought and your creativity in that. That's good. The last question I have, is with I thought I heard in K-8 that the special ed department rooms is right near kindergarten.
They're separate. They're in the same area of the building, but if you're in that special ed suite, you're not right next to the kindergarten. Same with kindergarten, you're not able to walk right into the special ed suite. They just happen to be in the same part of the building. It's just really kind of an organizational feature of the building. With our K-8 special ed students, we and the district were a little more concerned with if you have, I hate to use this term, but if you have what in the special ed world is called a runner, so a student that um, tries to leave the special ed pod without permission or run off. At the higher grade levels, they can do that a little more quickly and are a little more active. So we wanted to have them on a side of the building away from our main entry drive and away from our parking areas So if we do get a special ed student that is more prone to trying to get out of that suite, they're more likely to go onto the north side of the building where we don't have vehicular traffic and it's a little safer place for them than on the elementary side.
Okay, I think that's very good. I not having the full details, trying to see it today, and let me just put this as in your ear.
Sure.
I know often there's a stigma for special education,
Mhm.
so I would want to make sure that the area where they are, the K-8, that it's not perceived as you're over there with the babies. And I know that depends. I'm saying because
Yeah.
some
Yep.
of the kids are maybe self-contained, and I know their classes will be there, but some may be mainstream full-time or partially, which means they'll be going back and forth.
Yep.
And I know that I've dealt with kids at times who felt like they were placed in the area of the school
Yep.
where it was away from the major students and they were perceived as not being as,
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a great concern, and it's certainly one that we share with you. Actually, the access to the kindergarten and the SPED are in completely different areas. So the kindergarten is accessed kind of in that activity common space. The SPED is actually accessed off of the main corridor right across from the Discovery Center.
Okay.
And that SPED suite. So they really don't, because even though they're located in kind of the same quadrant of the building, they're accessed from completely different locations. So the SPED students are very much mainstreamed in terms of their visibility to the rest of the students. You would, if you didn't know the kindergarten was around the corner from them, you would never even ask the question. But that's a very, very good question. We did take it into account and have great confidence that the access into those two areas is separate and there won't be that stigmatization.
Well, lastly, I just want to tell you, I really, really appreciate your thoughtfulness. And just by your answers even today, tells me that you really took in consideration students and the staff, the principal. I heard you say you've met with principals, you talked with them about it. So I just want to thank you. Thank you for your thoughtfulness.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wright. Appreciate it.
Mr. Farrell, any questions or comments?
No questions, but a very exciting update. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell.
Ms. Clementi.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a few kind of random questions. I also appreciate all of your work and thoughtfulness, and am very, very excited about this kind of an update. Okay, so again, kind of random.
Yeah.
The elementary schools have a mix of flat and angled roof, which is cool, and it's going to be nice inside and out. Will it provide any different or odd kind of maintenance needs?
Not really. It's a good question, but our angled roof areas, they're taller volumes. The structure inside of those volumes is exposed, so it's very easy to access anything up in those ceiling areas, even though it's taller. We do make sure with your facility and maintenance department that there is equipment that can access up for lighting and things like that. It's actually probably easier to maintain those areas because they don't have ceilings in them than our classroom environments, where if you have to get the equipment, you have to remove ceiling panels and such to access it. So while those spaces are taller volumes, are actually probably easier to maintain than other areas of the building.
Then the same with the roof, the actual roofing. It won't create any
Nope.
issues with the roofing.
It's actually the same
Great.
roofing material as the flat roof.
In that same vein, there will be a lot more windows to clean. Will there be easy access, particularly to those higher windows, and we'll need the kind of equipment again to keep those windows clean on the outside.
All the roof clear story windows are accessible from flat roof areas.
Good.
So getting to those and cleaning those does have access. Our taller windows are not so excessively tall that either with an extension or with a lift, you can easily clean those. Those are pieces of equipment that the school district does have available.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Nice. The classroom garage doors
Uh-huh.
are also, yeah, a very cool idea. Will they be on a remote?
Quite honestly, Barb, I don't recall if they are automatic or manual. We've had discussions about that. I'd have to get back to you.
That's fine. That's fine. I can just see that they'll also need to be maintained.
I do
So
believe
they
they
move
are on.
easily.
Yeah, they will. They do have a maintenance, protocol for them. I do believe they are automatic with sensors. The automatic ones do have a sensor, so if a student is
Right.
underneath them or gets
Yep.
under, they come back up
Good.
and such.
Cool. In all three buildings, where the gym and the stage are in the same location,
Mhm.
will it be possible to put some kind of solid partitions
Yes, there
there?
is. There are
Okay,
actually two
good.
partitions. There's one between the stage and the gym. And that's a solid partition. I believe there's also a curtain there. So obviously, if you have a
Good.
performance, you don't want the solid partition,
Right.
but you want the curtain.
Yep.
And then there's a solid operable partition between the music classroom and the stage as well.
Great. Okay,
Yep.
cool. In the K-8 school, I'm interested in why the upper level kids, the 7/8s, are on the lower level
It's a
with
good
the
question. Yeah,
younger
yeah,
kids.
sure. Um, Part of it has to do with supervision. Uh, we had a lot of discussions with the district about what age groups go where. It was felt that having grades 7 and 8 in a more visible location on the ground level
Okay, good.
provided better supervision. It also allowed us to put them next to CTE, which
Okay.
is a component that primarily will be used by grade 7 and 8. So they can directly utilize it, but it was primarily about supervision of those 7th and 8th graders.
Cool.
We also
Okay.
wanted, to keep 7 and 8 and 5 and 6 kind of in the same stack. So that's why 5 and 6 is above them. Those
Okay.
5th and 6th graders can come down and use those spaces, in grade 7 and 8 can, share
Right.
opportunities, teaching opportunities, etc. Same with grades 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's why they're in a stack.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Just a few more. How will staff be involved in choosing the furnishings and the interior and exterior colors?
Sure. Actually, on the elementary schools, we have color boards, material boards. I believe the interior boards are complete and probably will be at the district offices next week. We're finishing up exterior boards as well. So those will be at the main district offices for administration and staff to look at and provide comment. We did a similar exercise on the high schools, if you recall, and
Right.
had those boards at the central district offices. So we'll be doing the same thing on these schools, and feedback can then come back to us. And if there are modifications that the schools desire, we can do that. We have been working with the principals in the color selections and material selections. And they've been sharing those, I think, with some of the teachers and staff in their buildings. So we have been getting some feedback that way. But now that we've gotten that, we'll provide actual physical samples to you and look for feedback on that. With the furniture, it's a little more compartmentalized. So on the furniture, we tend to work with district administration. Suzanne will be involved. Dave and Bob, typically, the principals will be involved as we look at furniture options, etc. if they choose to expand those groups that help us look at those and make those decisions, that they're more than welcome to. It's just hard to, because much of the furniture we visit showrooms, or a showroom up in Colorado Springs. It gets a little harder to share all of that with all the staff.
Sure,
but,
sure, and there's an economy of scale. They're involved as well, but I would hope that the principals would involve their staffs at some point.
Yeah,
with
and
some
we
of
do
that.
do a virtual presentation on the furniture.
Cool. Good.
As kind of a PDF document that has images of all of it, and so that'll be coming.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Last, what's the expected life span of these buildings?
50 years plus.
50
Absolutely.
years plus. Okay, and we've done all the soil percolation tests and all of that, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, all the geotechnical and
Good.
Yeah, and when I say 50 years plus, we would expect these buildings to live, quite a bit longer than 50 years.
Good.
50 years is kind of the top lifespan that you kind of look towards. But I mean, these are quality buildings, great materials, strong buildings, good foundations, etc. They'll have long lives. Yeah.
Thank you. I just now have a couple questions for Superintendent Macaluso, if I may. With the elementaries and 4 classrooms being demolished soon, I'm assuming that there'll be plenty of district support for whatever accommodations and adaptations need to be made there. Yes?
That is correct. In fact, we have already made a lot of those changes before school started. So those classrooms are essentially empty at this point.
Oh, nice. Good to know. Thank you. Thank you very much. And lastly, Superintendent Macaluso, could you give us a kind of estimated time frame for planning and hiring in the new K-8? Because there'll be a whole different focus. And I would assume at least part of the curriculum with that school. So there needs to be time for people to work together and build a cohesive.
Sure. Suzanne Morey and her team has put together an initial plan in terms of the curriculum and the program for the K-8 expeditionary. We will continue to vet that out in terms of staffing and communication plan and marketing plan and so forth with the school. So more information will be forthcoming in that regard.
So if I were interested in applying at that school, I should probably start looking about a year from now?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, thank you all very much. This really is very, very exciting.
A couple questions for me. Jack, I heard you say
yes,
the new elementary schools are actually going to be larger than the current buildings are.
Yep.
And I know at the new high schools, we built them smaller because of declining enrollment and building them in a way that they could be expanded if we do see growth. So can you just talk about the reasoning behind that?
Sure. So we look at the population of these neighborhoods and the ability for students in outlying neighborhoods, because you're an open district, to come to these schools as well. New schools are certainly an attractor. So being able to right size these buildings to their budgets is part of that exercise. So we're given a specific budget. We design the buildings to the level of quality expectations and the capacity needs within the district. What it allows you to do in a district with declining enrollments, in upcoming years potentially, and that's yet to be ultimately seen there. It certainly is kind of what the historical data has shown, but the hope is that trend reverses. But the ability to build as much kind of square footage as we can with the dollars to replace old building stock, I think is incumbent on your district. It's not only looking at the capacity needs within this area, but also how do we look to the future to ensure that you've got good buildings for a long, long time in the future, and as much capacity that is new for students in the future. So what I would expect is in these two new elementary schools, you're probably going to attract students from other areas of Pueblo that hadn't considered coming to these schools before, because they are new, because the capacity and availability of seats are there. It may be, a bus ride, or a parent has to drop them off and pick them up, but that's a choice that they have. These are also areas that we hope, with the new schools, attract larger populations or more population to come to them. The high schools, looking at enrollment trends, and enrollment trends by grade level, not just as the district as a whole. You've got a lot of capacity at your high school level with the two existing schools and then the two replacement schools that are happening. Much more so than you do at the elementary and middle school levels.
Sure.
Which enabled us to right size the two new high schools at smaller populations than the existing schools were. If you look at, for instance, Central High School, which has, I think, a population or a capacity of over 2,000 students, but a population of about 900, 950, you see you've got a lot of empty space in your buildings. The hope in sizing the high schools to the size that they are is that you have the ability to grow into them, but you're going to be, at 80, 85% at the day they open, with the ability to expand them. We did design both the high schools with the ability for expansion to go up to 1,200 students. But what we tried not to do was oversize them and leave you with the problem you have in some of your schools now, which is a lot of empty space that you're having to maintain and operate mechanical equipment, etc.
Great, thank you for that. My last question is the question I get all the time, and that's about solar. And I know Mr. Lawson sent me information, Superintendent Macaluso has sent me information, but I just thought, for the benefit of the public, can you just explain why we're not incorporating solar?
Yeah, so when we look at school design and efficiency in terms, especially energy efficiency, we look at a lot of aspects and opportunities to enhance a building's energy efficiency, and not only in terms of the dollars spent to operate the school, but the type of equipment and the expense of locating and providing that equipment. To be honest with you, there are much more cost-effective ways that result in better energy efficiency today than solar. The VRF systems that we placed in these schools are very, very efficient, low-cost systems that are a better expenditure of your dollars than solar panels on the roof. Solar, while an up-and-coming technology and a technology we do need to look to for the future, for schools of these size, you just don't have the roof space to make a solar array cost-effective and have much of an impact in your energy use and lowering your energy use. You would be spending a lot more money with a lot less payback than what we're getting with the VRF system, quite honestly. We're saving a lot more dollars with the direction we're going. So that's not to say solar's a bad system or shouldn't have been considered. It's just not the right system today for these buildings in terms of the dollars that we spent in being energy efficient and looking to save dollars in terms of operating these buildings. There were better ways to do it, quite honestly.
All right. Well, thank you, Jack. As Judge Mays always says, it makes me want to go back to school and be
Me
there
as
and
well.
experience it. And I couldn't be more excited for our kids to, be able to have these in our communities and utilize these state-of-the-art buildings. So thank you so much for being with us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jack, for your presentation. I want to commend the design team for all of these schools. They spent a lot of time intensive hours that they poured into this work, and they were very strategic and very intentional about the design. And it's evident that they look absolutely beautiful. And when you're talking about student outcomes, school facilities matter. So thank you, Jack. We're very excited.
Thank you,
Wow, wow,
Superintendent.
wow is all I can say.
And get
So
your
thanks
rest,
again for
because
being here.
again, you're going to have 5 schools to open in one summer. You're going to be a
We're
busy
going to
group
be
of people.
ready. We're looking forward to
I
it.
have no doubt. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you,
Take
Jack.
care.
All right, we'll move now to the naming process of the new K-8 expeditionary school.
Thank you, President Voss. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Lawson. And I've asked Bob to give the board some information regarding naming of new facilities and new schools because we'd like to get this process started. Mr. Lawson?
Good afternoon, President Voss, Superintendent Macaluso, members of the board. My topic today is a continuation of what you just heard about our new schools, and I'm happy to report that for the first time in 29 years, Pueblo School District 60 will be naming a newly constructed school. Heritage Elementary was the last new school to be named back in 1992. I would like to take a few minutes to provide the board with a brief overview of the process about naming their schools. Over the past 1.5 years, the district has been very active in completing the bond projects approved by the voters in 2019. These projects included the construction of 2 new high schools and extensive repairs at several other schools. Since that bond work has started in early 2020, the district, with the help of 2 BEST grants and diligent project management efforts, will be able to reach beyond the original plan of constructing 2 new schools and is now in the process of constructing 5 new schools. While 4 of these newly constructed schools will carry the name of the existing school with them that they are replacing, 1 new school, our new K-8, which you had just heard about, our expeditionary school, has not yet been named. Today, I want to briefly review Board Policy FF-R, naming facilities, regarding the naming of schools and the process that we must follow based upon those policies. In your board packet, you should have a copy of the school naming policies, and today I'll just be recapping some of the key highlights in Policy FF-R. To start, once the board declares that a new school or facility will be constructed, it will form a committee to assist in the naming of the new structure. The committee will be broad-based and include the superintendent or designee, students that will attend the new facility, and also their parents. The committee will select its own chairman and serve in advisory capacity to the Board of Education. The committee will submit no more than 3 suggested names to the board for its consideration. The board will announce to the public that the new facility will be named, the timeline for deciding the name, and later the proposed school name submitted by the committee. Any school name submitted by the public will be given to the committee for consideration. The board will decide on the name and announce it as soon as possible before the facility is occupied. It is also important to add the information about the guidelines that will apply before any naming requests are considered. Number 1, the committee will use a consensus method of making decisions. Number 2, the committee will complete its work before the facility is occupied. Number 3, if the facility is to be named in honor of an individual, the individual must have been deceased for at least 5 years. With the timeline to complete this naming, school naming task in mind, staff are recommending that the Board of Education initiate the school naming process for the new K-8 expeditionary school as required by board policy. This will allow for the naming process to be completed before the formal groundbreaking of the new school in the spring of 2022. This concludes my information, and I'll now turn this back over to Superintendent Macaluso for her comments.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson, for that information. I just thought it was important that the board receive the information regarding the process. And with your permission, I'd like to move forth with convening a committee to investigate the naming of the new school, the new K-8.
Are there any, Dr. Wright?
Yes, I do have a couple of questions, but I really like the process. First of all, I'm grateful we have that opportunity to do this historical thing of naming the school. So that's exciting by itself. And I appreciate the students and parents being involved. But for clarity's sake, help me understand. I know we're talking about a consensus. So a consensus being a general agreement. Talk to me about how you determine consensus rather than majority. At what point do you determine you have a consensus? I know majority is quantifiable when the greater number of people, but how would you know when you have a consensus?
So in my mind, when we're talking consensus, it's not necessarily a vote. So would it be, majority or non-majority? It would be an agreement in terms of moving forward. So yeah, I guess we can agree as a group that this is a name that we would submit forward to the board. So it's a process of agreement.
Okay, I understand that. I just haven't been a part of some discussions with consensus, sometimes very vague of when it's determined there is one. So I was just wondering why that chosen even though it's a great way of getting input and bringing unity, my concern is that versus majority. How do you know when the whole group is pretty much saying, yeah, we agree? Anyway, the other thing is 5 years. Why 5 years? Because I know with the passing of Councilman Ray Aguilera, there were some entities that were named after him. So why 5 years?
I actually think that's specifically in the policy and the regulation, because I think it allows time from the deceased, just healing time and so forth. I think there's enough time to research various activities and so forth. So I think it just allows, and I'm not sure if Mr. Baum could speak to, or other board members could speak to, when that came to be within our policy. I know that it's been in place for quite some time, but I think that Barb, maybe you have some background information on that.
I think it has been in effect in policy for decades, and I think it was put there in order to add perspective to the choice. Many of us get emotional about the recently deceased, as we should, but namings of schools should have a greater perspective, long term and breadth wise in the community.
I can appreciate that. I can appreciate the historical information about it having been 5, but I guess I would probably say maybe we should open our minds to something less than 5. If the consensus of the group is that there are those individuals that may have made a major contribution in education or major contribution in the area. I don't know. I just wanted us to maybe consider that if there's not I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'm trying to say that unless there's a concrete reason why it has to be 5, not 3, not 2, not 4, and that was just a figure that does give you the ability to step away from it emotionally. But perhaps we need to be open that there may be someone we might want to honor that is 4 years. Just putting that out there. Thank you.
If I may, I think this is a matter that is goes back to the policies, and obviously, I don't know what the reason was for putting 5, but at the time it was decided upon, I would assume that there was a debate about that, and reasons were given, and that was a policy that was adopted. I would suggest that if someone wants to change the policy, that they should come forward with that resolution and take it up as a board matter.
I think that's a good idea, Judge. I appreciate that suggestion. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board?
So at this time, I'm not recommending a change to the policy, but if it is the desire of the board to move forth in that manner, you can give me direction in that regard. At this point, I'm not bringing forth a change. I was just asking permission to continue to move forward. I don't know if Mr. Bump has anything to add in that regard.
Yeah, President Voss, members of the board, and Superintendent Macaluso. I did a little research on this, and I concur with Barb's assessment. The regulation indicates in the policy that it's been on the books since 1987. I went back into the board docs as far as I could, which is like back to 2008 when this policy was discussed, but that issue was not on the table for any discussion. So I think the fact that it's 5 years has been a tradition in the district. And probably avoids naming the facilities too often, if you will. But it has been on the books for quite some time. And there may be some relevance to the fact that it has been the tradition.
Thank you, Mr. Bump. Ms. Clementi.
I concur with Superintendent's recommendation to move forward using the policy in force to begin this process, because it is a long and complex process.
Well, I think one of the things that needs to be taken into consideration, if there is going to be some move to change the policy, is the time period when, as I understand it, the naming has to be, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I thought the naming had to be at the time, right around the time of the groundbreaking, which is coming up, what, in the next 6-7 months? I don't recall.
We would anticipate that the groundbreaking would happen this spring. I think it's more important to definitely have the naming of the school named prior to opening, obviously, right? We don't want to be calling it the unknown K-8 school. But certainly just for marketing and publicity and just all of that other considerations, it would be our desire to have it fully named by the time that we have the groundbreaking. We would like to be able to announce and market that this is the name of the K-8. I think that's important in our community.
Dr. Wright?
Yes, I just want to state for the record, I'm not opposed to it. I just was wondering why. Why did she choose 5? So out of curiosity, I said, let me ask. So I'm not opposed to it. I just
wondered. And I think the 5, Dr. Wright, is really, it could have been 4, it could have been 6. I think it was just, I think it was about giving people space and an opportunity to not be emotionally attached to something and just really be intentional and strategic about the selection and the name. So I think it was just, that arbitrary number that they landed on, I would guess, that they thought afforded enough time.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you, Dick, and everyone for giving me clarification. I appreciate it.
But Superintendent Macaluso, you do need the go-ahead to form the committee. Is that right?
Yes, I would appreciate, this policy was just there for information, to provide information to the board, but, I would like to seek consensus of the board to move forward.
Sure.
Here we are with that consensus again, Dr. Wright.
I know. Well, I'm in agreement with starting that
what
process.
Is it? Well, I'm in favor of moving forward.
Me too.
Me too.
Okay, so I'll move ahead and then I'll keep you updated regarding our progress.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
We'll move now to the enrollment update for the start of the 2021-2022 school year.
Thank you. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Dave Horner, and he's going to provide some information for us. Mr. Horner?
Good afternoon. This is a unique report for me. I've been here 5 years and never been able to say this to you guys before. This is the first time since 2013 that we do not have a declining enrollment. We're not final in our counts, but right now we are ahead by 58 students from last year. When we modeled being down between 300 and 400 students, and we have been down between 300 and 400 students every year, that's huge. So this is really exciting. You know, whether it's COVID, whether it's all the neat things we're doing and kids are wanting to come, the growth, whatever, all the reasons combined, for us to be stable in enrollment this fall is so exciting, you know, not only financially, but just the whole wellness of our district. So that's the bottom line of this report. Right now, we have K-12, 14,600 and some students. The numbers are not final because they have to go through a cleaning process that takes about 2.5 months. So we'll be up or down a handful of students. Charters are up a little bit. We're up a little bit. Really exciting. Preschool doesn't take their counts until November. They're down a few right now, but they're continuing to grow, you know, a little bit at a time. So by the time we take the numbers, they may be up, they may be down a little bit, but it's pretty much a match for last year. Now the real challenge is going to be, what do we forecast for next year? Do we, you know, when you look at your modeling of the past years, is this an anomaly or is this the new trend? So that's going to be the hard part for me over the next 3 weeks or so to start building the model and looking at that. But I'm really excited to give you guys this news that, you know, since October 2013 is the last time we had an increase in enrollment, and now we have another one right now. So that's the gist of my report, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Dr. Wright.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to tell you that I am so excited to hear that news. And I would just like to commend Superintendent and her staff, because I think that, and the board and the others, because I think out of the hard work that's been going on these last few years to really just, you know, to improve on every area. I think that you've worked very, very hard to look at the curriculum, to look at the building, and the work that Dave Horner and the others have done in terms of saving money and an extra school. I think it's a combination, and maybe it's just me, but I'm just elated that our that the work that you're doing is showing fruit in enrollment. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Judge Mays, any questions, comments?
I don't know that I've ever seen Dave Horner this excited about a report before, so it's obviously really exciting to us as well. And yeah, I think I echo what Dr. Wright said. I think it's an indication of all the hard work that the school's been doing, and all the progress that's been made. I've mentioned a couple times, I don't want to be real windy about this, but I think what's happened in the last few years, including COVID, has been nothing short of phenomenal with the way the school districts responded. And I think that is a credit to all of our teachers that are in the classrooms, that are making classes exciting so that these kids want to come into our schools. I think it's the vision of the leadership that we have, the hard work of all the people involved, all of the D60 family, and the work of the Board of Education. So, Mr. Horner, you got me pumped up, brother.
Mr. Farrell?
No questions, but what a great problem for you to have, Mr. Horner, to reevaluate your forecasting moving forward. So that's exciting, and you don't always come to us with super exciting reports. So thank you for this one.
And Ms. Clementi.
Also, wonderful, wonderful news. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was not expecting that today. So that's huge news. It's a big deal. So thank you so much for bringing that to us. And just echoing a lot of what people have said, I think really it's a result of, the incredible work that's being done. I was just telling Superintendent Macaluso the other day, it's night and day from now, in relation to where it was 4 years ago when I first got on the board. And it's just been incredible to be a part of all of this and see, how far the district has come. So thank you, everybody, for all of the incredible work that has been done.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. It definitely has been a total team effort. It has a lot to do with our teachers and our support staff and everybody who works so hard at the school level. And we were beginning to think you didn't have a great smile, Mr. Horner, and now we know you do. So it's good to see you smiling. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mr. Horner.
Thank you.
We'll move now to the, sorry, go
President
ahead.
Voss, so if we'll move to the last report. At this time, I'd like to introduce Cindy Smith, who serves as gifted and talented and fine arts specialist. And Mrs. Smith, I apologize that we had to cut your report short last time, but we're excited to hear what you have for us.
I'm
Welcome.
excited to share. Thank you and good evening, President Voss, Superintendent Macaluso, and board members. I did present my screen, so I just want to make sure that everybody can see that. I'm seeing nodding. Okay.
Yep, we can see it just fine.
Great. So I am pleased to present to you this afternoon on the state of the arts in Pueblo School District 60. This report is intended to inform on Colorado's stance on arts education, the current programming in our district's schools, student opportunities that promote and extend advanced learning experiences for our students, the impact that COVID-19 is having on our programs, and to offer considerations and next steps to ensure that our arts programs are sustainable and continue to flourish. Research over decades has shown that when students participate in a high-quality arts education, it can positively affect an entire school culture, especially student motivation, attitude, and attendance. This encourages students to stay and succeed in school and be successful after they graduate in both life and work. The numbers listed in this slide is significant to that research. According to the Americans for the Arts, students involved in the arts are 4 times more likely to be recognized for academic achievement and participate in a math and science fair, 3 times more likely to win an award for school attendance, average almost 100 points better on the SAT. Low-income students are more than twice as likely to graduate college as their peers with no arts education. Low-income students with high arts participation have a dropout rate of 4%, compared to 22% with low arts participation. And 72% of business leaders say that creativity is the #1 skill that they are seeking when hiring. So in 2008, Senate Bill 212, or CAP for K, acknowledged the arts as core curricula. This statute led to the development of instruction standards in the 4 major arts disciplines: dance, drama and theater, music, and visual arts. The 2010 Arts Education for Workforce Development Act, which was House Bill 10-1273, specified the inclusion of arts learning in key education policy areas, including individual career and academic plan, career and technical education, and dropout prevention. As part of student graduation and improvement plans, Statute 2214-107 was revised in 2010 to encourage schools to increase the availability of visual and performing arts courses and opportunities through the curriculum, extracurricular activities, and in coordination with community arts organizations. Statute 22-710-13 was revised in 2011 to state that schools are required to adopt assessments for their arts education curriculum that aligned with their curricula and state standards. These are not state-created or nationally normed assessments, but district and teacher-created performance assessments. We have varied offerings in District 60, and it may look a little different from school to school. What you will see in the following 3 slides are the number of schools that offer during the day instruction in drama, visual arts, and music. For drama and theater, No elementary schools offer this as part of a specials rotation, but this is pretty typical throughout the state of Colorado. 2 of our middle schools and 2 of our high schools offer drama as a course during the school day. For visual arts, 12 of our 19 elementary schools offer visual art instruction in their specials rotations, and all of our middle and high schools offer visual art instruction. Music is a little different of an animal, as there are a variety of programming options at the secondary level. Band, choir, orchestra, and jazz band are widely considered as traditional ensembles. And there are also what is considered non-traditional courses that include things like guitar, piano, mariachi, music technology, and music theory. Each high school program relies on the middle school programs in order to retain enrollment in traditional ensemble courses, as students typically start beginning instruction in the 6th grade. By level, 17 of our 19 elementary schools offer music as part of their specials rotation. In our 6 middle schools, 5 of the 6 offer band, 2 offer choir, 3 offer orchestra, 4 offer a general music course that's typically for 6th grade students as an exploratory wheel course. 1 offers piano and 1 offers guitar. The opportunities for students at the high school level looks pretty similar. Our 4 traditional high schools all offer band, choir, and jazz band. 2 offer orchestra, 2 offer guitar, and there are other music electives that are offered exclusively at each school. East offers piano, Central offers mariachi, South offers music technology, and Centennial offers advanced placement music theory. Many of our students enrolled in an arts course display a high level of talent in their respective areas and/or wish to pursue a post-secondary degree in that arts area and require content extension. There are several opportunities that are offered to students in D60 to meet these individual needs. For our theater students, school-sponsored musicals are an annual occurrence, as well as the long-standing community tradition of the Pueblo Summer Musical. In schools without drama during the day, there is an extracurricular drama club. Our talented visual artists have many opportunities to showcase their work through district-wide art shows, national and local contests, and community displays, such as at our annual Pride and Patriotism event. Additionally, some schools may offer extracurricular art clubs. In music, we offer honor ensemble opportunities like all-city, all-state, and college-sponsored honor ensembles for our students who individually excel at their instrument. Our directors and students are often performing in the community through Christmas caroling, nursing homes, Pride and Patriotism, and other events by community request. In fact, Centennial just last month performed at the county courthouse as a guest performance for the new Youth Impact Project. 2 of our high schools also have a Tri-M chapter, which is the National Honor Society for Music, and promotes service and leadership within the community. The summer musical mentioned earlier also appeals to our musicians, as they can be part of the theater or the instrumental pit orchestra. And I'm happy to report that we are currently planning on having a 2022 summer musical. We certainly are not able to offer all of these experiences for students without the help and support from so many of our community organizations. We are so incredibly grateful for these continued partnerships that we have with our community leaders to help support the arts here in Pueblo. Although this is not an exhaustive list, you can see the organizations here that we do work closely with year after year at a district level. And then schools may have additional partnerships as well. COVID-19 brought with it unique consequences for arts programs nationwide, and District 60 is no exception. As a positive, we were able to fund technology-enhanced curriculum resources for all of our arts teachers, and will be able to sustain these resources for years to come. Drama teachers receive Drama Teacher Academy, Visual arts teachers receive the Art of Education University's Flex Curriculum and Professional Development Packs. And elementary music teachers were able to adopt a new curriculum for the first time in 20 years, Quaver Ed, which was approved by the board in May of 2021. However, the negative impacts of COVID-19 has created significant challenges in arts programming, and we will feel the effects for the next 2 to 3 years. As I report on these challenges and considerations for future planning, I will be focusing more on the performing arts side, as visual arts was not as significantly impacted as its drama and music counterparts. First, the loss of learning due to a temporary hiatus on singing and playing will impact us the most. The majority of our middle schools did not play instruments or sing last year because master scheduling had to address cohorting and lessening the potential impact of quarantines. This severely affected programming and courses offered. For example, one of our well-established and comprehensive middle school music programs offered only 6th grade general music for the entire year, resulting in the temporary elimination of the 7th and 8th grade music courses. At the high school level, many of the ensemble members were virtual students, resulting in a loss of playing and singing instruction for 1 year. With the guidance we had to follow to keep everyone safe, there were also no opportunities for recruiting and collaborating with our elementary and middle schools, which is one of the biggest drivers in sustaining our programs. Through all of these factors, we saw a decrease in the participation and enrollment in our music programs last year specifically. On this slide, you can see enrollment data in the traditional high school ensembles. So again, we're looking at band, choir, and orchestra for the past 5 years. The biggest dip in enrollment is, of course, last year during COVID and the unique schedules we had to implement. In the case of band and choir, you'll see that the program numbers have rebounded, but still fall short of where we were in 2019-2020. There has been a steady decline in enrollment with orchestra over the past 5 years and is in serious danger of reaching 0, with 2 of our high schools having eliminated that course from the master schedule. This is largely in part due to a lack of or inconsistent programming options offered at the middle school level. The declining enrollment also impacts CSU Pueblo's student enrollment as well, as they are largely considered a local university and rely on District 60 and 70 students to fill their programs, and they have seen that decline in music and art majors as well. The enrollment trend data presented can feel daunting and overwhelming for our teachers, school, and district. However, I believe we could reverse the impacts from COVID-19 and continue to offer support to our arts programs that encourage growth and sustainment. Because the arts are considered a core subject in Colorado, and we have academic standards from pre-K through high school, there are grade level expectations that scaffold throughout the years. When there is a gap in programming options, students are missing grade level specific foundational skills, and they are less likely to enroll in arts courses at a higher grade. Building out the pathway, especially that 6-12 pathway, is the most essential in these considerations to ensure that high school programs do not diminish. The continuity of programming is also vital as we continue to discuss the future of our arts programming, and course offerings must remain consistent from year to year to ensure stable programs. There are also additional costs to sustain these programs that are not found typically in other core content areas, and oftentimes these are pretty big ticket items. Instrument purchase and repair, travel, and marching band uniforms are some of the items that have to be considered over time. To give some specific examples, we had to replace a baby grand piano last year at a cost of approximately $14,000. And the price of new marching band uniforms, which should be replaced approximately every 10 years, can be expected to be around the $50,000 to $60,000 price range per school. My job is to work closely with Marcy Imes, Executive Director of Secondary Education, to explore ideas and solutions to maximize student opportunity at each of our secondary schools moving forward. With a supportive legislative framework in place, new online instructional tools, strong community partnerships, and district-level support, we have more opportunities than ever before to sustain high-quality arts programs. I would like to sincerely thank you for your time this afternoon, and I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Are there any questions from the board? Dr. Wright?
I just want to thank you, Ms. Smith, for your report, but also I really appreciate your giving the data about the value of the arts. I think it's having been a product of the arts, performing from a child, and I think you guys know one of my master's degrees in theater, and I've done professional theater and all of that. I know the value. And even as a teacher teaching English in high school, I started a unit called Teaching English Through the Arts way back, way back. And like you say, the kids, the research is there to show kids do better in math and music, they do better with dance. Those things enhance our kids, not only creative skills, but also academic skills. So thank you. So I appreciate for your plan of action that I heard you say about the performing arts and working to pull those up. And so you definitely have my support. And lastly, I want to commend East High School. I got a chance to go in, and there are auditions for A Christmas Carol. And they were so excited. And I said, oh, I did that in graduate school. I was a Ghost of Christmas Present. And so I look forward to going back there to see them perform and to encourage them. But thank you so much. And thank you, Superintendent, for just a push for the arts. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Wright.
Judge Mays, any questions, comments?
No questions, Ms. Smith. Thank you very much for your advocacy. And obviously, in District 60, we take very seriously our responsibility to educate the whole child, and the arts are certainly part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Mays.
Mr. Farrell?
No questions, but thank you, Ms. Smith, for your foresight and trying to address the situation. I know it's been a challenging year and a half, 2 years now, for the arts. So I'm glad that you're keeping a close eye on where things are going, and through a lens of equity, I saw that in there as well, because the arts are very important to every student in the district, and we need to continue to make sure we have those opportunities for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell.
And Ms. Clemente?
Again, thank you. Yes, it's good to hear that data. The arts are one of the few that show a direct correlation with student success in every possible realm. I'm thrilled to see the progress that's been made. I talked to a Centennial High School student who shared with me that the enrollment in band at Centennial had doubled over the first 3 or 4 weeks of school, and he was thrilled. So that it was very, very, very exciting. And it was wonderful to be at the bell game and hear 2 bands playing. That was brilliant and stunning. I appreciate all of your work and hope that you will continue as you are, continue to build feeder programs, and perhaps look beyond just the middle schools, but into the elementary schools to build that feeder program. You know, when we had the strongest arts programs, we had Suzuki, I think it was Suzuki, programs in every one of our elementary schools. That does a great job of getting kids started. Not that I'm promoting that particular program, but the younger we build, the longer they stay. And I also know that across, I think, the country, and certainly across the state, it's difficult to find educators for the arts. So maybe we need to be looking at ways to kind of what they call grow your own, and use some of our resources to help our students go to school, get their music degrees or art degrees or theater degrees, and then come back to us to work. That's just something to consider. because I know you don't have enough to do. I appreciate your advocacy and all that you're doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Clementi.
And I'm in agreement, I think, with the rest of my colleagues that it's critical to have an arts program for our students. And I just want to say thank you for the data that you presented and the plan of action about how we can address this and ensure that we do have a healthy arts program. So thank you so much for all the work that you do.
Thank you, President Voss.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
With that, we'll move now to 8.0 special resolutions. And we'll start with National Arts and Education Week. And that's going to be Ms. Clementi. Barb, I think you're muted there.
Thank you.
There
Yes,
you go.
exactly. This resolution is a concurrent resolution of the Congress that has been in effect since 2010, and that we as a district and board reaffirm every year. Whereas arts education, comprising a rich array of disciplines including dance, music, theater, media arts, literature, design, and visual arts, is a core academic subject and an essential element of a complete and balanced education for all students. Whereas, according to Albert Einstein, quote, after a certain high level of technical skill is achieved, science and art tend to coalesce in aesthetics, plasticity, and form. The greatest scientists are artists as well, end quote. Whereas arts education enables students to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills, imagination and creativity, discipline, alternate ways to communicate and express ideas, and cross-cultural understanding, which supports academic success from the curriculum as well as personal growth outside the classroom. Whereas the nonprofit arts sector contributes to the economy and plays an important role in the economic health of communities large and small, with direct expenditures of wages and benefits as well as goods and services. Whereas to succeed in today's economy, students must masterfully use words, images, sounds, and movement to communicate. Whereas our nation works to strengthen its foothold in the 21st century global economy, the arts equip students with a creative competitive edge. Whereas schools and communities are delivering high-quality learning opportunities in, through, and about the arts for children, extraordinary results occur. Whereas studies have shown that schools with large populations of students in poverty can be transformed into vibrant hubs of learning through arts education. Whereas studies have also found that 8th graders from under-resourced environments who are highly involved in the arts have better grades, less likelihood of dropping out by grade 10, have more positive attitudes about school, and are more likely to go on to college. Whereas attracting and retaining the best teachers is vital and can be achieved by ensuring that schools embrace the arts, becoming havens for creativity and innovation. Whereas arts education has the power to make students want to learn not just within the arts, but with other areas of study. Whereas arts is integral to the lives of many United States citizens and can improve the vitality of communities and the nation. And whereas the week beginning on the second Sunday of September would be an appropriate week to designate as Arts and Education Week, now therefore be it resolved that this board support their designation of Arts and Education Week and calls on other elected and community officials from across our community to issue proclamations to raise awareness of the value and importance of arts and education, and encourages the people of the United States and our community to observe such a week with appropriate activities. I move that we accept this resolution.
I second it.
I'll call the vote, please.
Ms. Clementi,
Aye.
Mr. Farrell,
Aye.
Judge Mays,
Aye.
Mr. Voss,
Aye.
Dr. Wright.
Aye.
Next up, we have National Bullying Prevention Month, and that's Dr. Wright.
Thank you, President Voss. Pueblo School District number 60, Bully Prevention Proclamation, October 1st through 31st, 2021. Whereas bullying is physical, verbal, sexual, or emotional harm or intimidation intentionally directed at a person or group of people, and whereas bullying occurs in neighborhoods, playgrounds, schools, and online through technology, and whereas various researchers have concluded that bullying is the most common form of violence, affecting millions of American children and adolescents annually, and whereas many of the Pueblo School District number 60 children and adolescents are affected by bullying annually, and whereas targets of bullying are at increased risk for depression, anxiety, sleep difficulties, lower academic achievement, and dropping out of school, and students who are repeatedly bullied often fear such activities as riding the bus, going to school, interacting online, and attending community activities. And whereas children who bully are at greater risk of engaging in more serious violent behaviors, and whereas children who witness such bullying often feel less safe, helpless to stop it, and intimidated. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Pueblo School District number 60 Board of Education proclaims October as National Bullying Prevention Month, and be it further resolved that District 60 schools, students, parents be encouraged to engage in a variety of awareness and prevention activities designed to make our communities safer for all children and adolescents. The Board of Education proclaims October as National Bullying Prevention Month as presented in the October 14th, 2020 board materials. And President Voss, I make a motion that we accept this proclamation.
Second.
I'll call the vote, please.
Ms. Clementi,
Aye.
Mr. Farrell,
Aye.
Judge Mays,
Aye.
Mr. Voss,
Aye.
Dr. Wright.
Aye.
Next up, we have National Hispanic Heritage Month. Judge Mays.
Whereas the Pueblo School District number 60 Board of Education joins residents throughout the community, state, and country in recognizing September 15, 2021 to October 15, 2021 as National Hispanic Heritage Month, and honors the past and present contributions of Hispanic Americans. And whereas Hispanic Americans have made extraordinary past contributions and continue to contribute to our community, state, nations, and world, including advances in education, medicine, art, culture, public service, economics, human rights, and politics. And whereas the Pueblo School District number 60 Board of Education recognizes the positive influences Hispanics have on our country and in our community through their strong commitment to family, faith, hard work, and service, and commends the local organizations that support their progress, enrich their culture, and celebrate the multi-ethnic and multicultural customs of the Hispanic communities. Therefore, be it resolved by the Pueblo School District number 60 Board of Education that the district recognizes National Hispanic Heritage Month. And I would move at this time that the Board of Education acknowledges National Hispanic Heritage Month and recognizes the contributions made by Hispanic Americans as presented in the October 14, 2021 Board Materials.
Second.
Second.
I'll call the vote, please.
Ms. Clementi,
Aye.
Mr. Farrell,
Aye.
Judge Mays,
Aye.
Mr. Voss,
Aye.
Dr. Wright.
Aye.
And finally, we have the 2021 National Occupational Therapist Day resolution. Mr. Farrell.
This resolution is intended to honor the efforts of Pueblo School District number 60 occupational therapists. Whereas the occupational therapists of Pueblo School District number 60 provide many services and supports to the students to bring them toward their highest achievement possible. And whereas they serve a student population of over 14,000 children every school day. And whereas they do so with great skill, care, and compassion. And therefore be it resolved that the Pueblo School District number 60 Board of Education acknowledges October 27th, 2021 as National Occupational Therapist Day. Further, the board expresses deep and heartfelt appreciation to the efforts made by the occupational therapy staff each and every school day. It's my pleasure to move that the board proclaim October 27th, 2021 as National Occupational Therapist Day as presented in tonight's materials.
Second.
I'll call the vote, please.
Ms. Clementi,
Aye.
Mr. Farrell,
Aye.
Judge Mays,
Aye.
Mr. Voss,
Aye.
Dr. Wright.
Aye.
We'll move now to 10.0 policy. Superintendent Macaluso.
Thank you, President Voss. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to Marcy Imes, who serves as the Executive Director of Secondary Education and CTE, and she's going to be bringing a first reading in regard to board policy IHCDA that deals with concurrent enrollment. Ms. Imes?
Good afternoon, Superintendent Macaluso, President Voss, members of the board. I'm here today to present a first reading of 3 policies. One is the IHCDA, as Superintendent Macaluso just stated. These policies that require revisions, and I ask that you review and make any recommendations for our second and final reading. These policies have also been reviewed by Mr. Bump and reflect any recommendations. As the first policy is IHCDA, concurrent enrollment. This policy defines concurrent enrollment and the eligibility requirements, course credits, and payment of tuition. The changes to this policy include recommended CASB updates. Mostly, this includes changing shall or may to will or must, and includes an additional statement on page 3 under the note section, which states information about concurrent enrollment options and the benefits of participating in concurrent enrollment during high school will be provided to middle school students and their parents, guardians, electronically at least once during the school year and at least once during the summer. Would you like me to continue with the other 2 policies, Superintendent Macaluso?
I think we can take each one. Are there any recommendations or comments on the policy that Ms. Imes just went over? Barb?
I want to point out the change back from shall to will, as it should be. I appreciate that. And I want to clarify that that paragraph that's added, I believe, is required by law, by current law.
Correct.
Great. So I appreciate the changes. Thank you.
Thank you. So we would, I would ask you to move on.
Okay.
Marcy.
The next policy is IKC, class rankings and grade point averages. This policy has 3 revisions that are required in order to be consistent and in alignment with the policy IKCR, which refers to our Latin Laude honor system. As a reminder, the class of 2022 will be the first District 60 class that will graduate under the Latin Laude honor system. The first revision is in the title of this policy. This includes the removal of class ranking and the paragraph in the policy regarding class ranking, which is necessary to be consistent with policy IKCR and the Latin Laude honor system. The second revision is to the weighted grading scale. Again, the purpose of this revision is to be consistent with the grading scale that is in policy IKCR. And the last revision is to remove the section on honor and honor rolls, as the Latin Laude honor system clearly defines how students will be honored. Oh, any questions on this one? Dr. Clemente? Or sorry, Ms. Clemente.
Thank you. So the Latin Laude system details how speakers would be chosen at commencement.
Yes.
Yes. It details how honor roll is chosen.
Correct.
Or qualified for. Good. I wonder why we went with the change from the rule to the policy as opposed to the changing the rule to fit the policy with the 92 to 100 higher. It's a little higher grading expectation.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
The Laude system rule that we added, the whatever it is, IKR.
Correct.
I don't know the right.
The regulation.
Yes, the regulation has 90 to 100 as the grading scale for an A. Correct?
Correct.
Our policy had 92 to 100 for an A. Why did we pick the more lenient grade policy?
I believe that was conducted, or that was chosen as the a task force back in 2019. Met. Okay.
Okay.
So they met.
That's good. Thank you. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for that, reminding me of that. One last thing. I think that it should probably be clarified that those ranges are not, there's nothing to deal with between 89 and 90. For instance, I think that the grade percentages need to, since we're going to be the range for B should be from 80 to 89.99, because there'll be lots of grade point averages that fall between the round numbers all the way through, and we need to be clear about where the rounding happens. So I'd like to see that addition all the way through in that grading period, grading scale piece. Does that make sense?
Understood.
Thank you. And thanks for your work on this.
Yep.
Any other recommendations from the board?
Okay, I will
All
take
right.
those recommendations and move forward with that.
Great. Thank you.
I have one last policy. It is policy IKCR, and that is the Latin Laude honor system. And this policy details and replaces the traditional recognition system with the District 60 Latin Laude honor system, which encourages students to enroll and excel in a balanced course load that interests and prepares them for the post-secondary pursuits, for their post-secondary pursuits. There is only one very minor change to this policy, and it's hard to find if you're not looking. And the revision is at the bottom of page 2 under honor roll and academic lettering. The revision here is to change the 3.5 to 3.4 to read: each high school shall compile and publish a list every 9 weeks of all students who have attained a 3.4 GPA or higher to earn honor roll designation, not the 3.5 that is listed there, just to be consistent throughout the document. This concludes any explanation regarding I have revisions to the policies. And I will bring these policies back to you for a second reading at the end of this month.
Ms. Clementi, did you have something?
Just a last thing there. I think somehow we need to be clear again about rounding for honor roll.
Will be
No,
consistent in both policies.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll move now to 12.0 action items. Superintendent Macaluso.
Thank you, President Voss. We would ask that the board consider approval of the submission to the Colorado Department of Education of the priority improvement and the turnaround plans. Those require an earlier submission. These are always a work in progress. So schools continue to work on these documents, but you do have those documents in board materials. So.
Ms. Clementi, did you have something?
President, I would make the motion unless you'd like to.
Sure, that's fine.
I move the Board of Education approve the submission of the Unified Improvement Plans in draft form for the Colorado Department of Education as presented in the October 14th, that would be today, 2021 board materials.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll call the vote, please.
Ms. Clementi,
Aye.
Mr. Farrell,
Aye.
Judge Mays,
Aye.
Mr. Voss,
Aye.
Dr. Wright.
Aye.
All right, at this point, we'll move to executive session. So I will move that the Board of Education will meet in executive session for the purpose of considering the following matters: to receive legal advice and the opinion of the district's legal counsel on specific legal questions, including board authority with respect to the public health orders and district regulations, and legal interpretation of authority under board policy and regulation, pursuant to CRS 24-6-402, Paren 4, Paren B, and to discuss personnel matters, specifically the superintendent's ongoing evaluation, pursuant to CRS 24-6-402, Paren 4, Paren F.
Second.
I'll call the vote, please.
Ms. Clementi,
Aye.
Mr. Farrell,
Aye.
Judge Mays,
Aye.
Mr. Voss,
Aye.
Dr. Wright.
Aye.
All right, and we will be adjourning from executive session today, so we won't be returning to this meeting. Thank you, everyone.